I think we move straight to the next panel. It's sort of a continuation of this one. The East Mediterranean is rolling up its sleeves. Exit from the crisis and the economic impact of geopolitical turmoil. So I'd like to invite Theodoros Skylakakis, alternate Minister of Finance of Greece, and Vassiliki Lazarakou to join me. Thank you. So we are discussing the Eastern Mediterranean in general. We've touched on it already. Minister.
Well, yeah, I'd better go there since I have a small speech. It's easier to address it from here. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's an opportunity to talk in this period of turmoil, but also it's a challenge since we are obliged, because of the uncertainty, to talk in terms of scenarios. Obviously, there are a number of scenarios of how things can unfold. And I choose to talk about the scenario that I consider more likely, I hope the other one does not materialize, which is one of a new uncertain peace in some time during the next weeks or month, but with greater geopolitical tensions in the world in general and in Europe in particular. If we reach this new period of peace, what is going to be macroeconomically important for the next few years is the energy relation between Russia and Europe. Whether we're going to have a fast-track divorce with very high short and medium-term energy prices, in Europe in particular, or a more gradual reduction of the dependency from Russian gas and oil, which will lead to more moderate short and medium-term energy prices in Europe. Irrespective of which one of the two scenarios will unfold, it is certain that for Greece, this new geopolitical environment will include both challenges and opportunities. The main challenge is that Greece is a country that has a considerable share of its energy mix in terms of imported oil and gas, which means that we will be affected one way or another from the higher energy prices, somewhat more than the European average. On the other hand, the unforeseeable comparative advantage in terms of the new geopolitical environment is that Greece has already made the investments that other European countries will be forced to make in the near future in terms of defense. For reasons of history and geopolitical location, we have one of the most powerful militaries in Europe. We were obliged to have such a powerful military. And these sunk-in military investments have already happened, or some of them are going to occur in the next 2-3 years, and they are already within our fiscal and macroeconomic plan. So we will not have to make additional investment in defense as other EU countries are probably going to make. Some of them have already announced it. And maybe there will be some more understanding of what it means to have for decades big investments in the military than there was in the past. The second advantage is that Greece is the main entrance for gas, especially LNG gas, for the Southeast and Central Europe. And there are a lot of new investments that are planned and will happen in terms of new LNG terminals, new gas storage facilities in northern Greece, but also probably new pipelines and electricity cables to connect Southeast Europe with North Africa or maybe the Middle East. Also, Greece has a lot of renewable energy potential, especially in terms of wind, where we have a big advantage compared to all our neighboring countries. Thus, accelerated investments are going to happen in the energy sector in the new geopolitical environment that we are talking about, which will affect positively both Greece's economy and its geopolitical role. Apart from the higher energy prices, we are also going to enter, everybody knows that, in a period of higher interest rates. And one poses the question, Greece has the biggest debt. What will happen with its interest rates? The answer is not much. The Greek debt, and this is a paradox, the Greek debt is very high, but most of it is in fixed interest rates. Thus, our interest rate, the interest that we're going to pay is fixed to 2 to 3%, very low levels, for at least the next 10 years, and maybe more, 2 to 3% of GDP, at today's level, that is. So these higher interest rates are not a problem for Greece in terms of debt. The biggest challenge for us is covering the investment gap that was the main problem of the Greek economy during the last 10 years, during the years of the Greek crisis. We had almost half the average investment to GDP ratio compared to other Eurozone countries. This has started to change within the last couple of years through this new government. And now we have, for the first time, despite the pandemic, a big increase both in investments and exports. We had an increase in investments in 2020 compared to 2019, despite the pandemic. We had a big increase in 2021, where we achieved a high GDP growth of 8.3. And we also had a record year for investments, which reached 45 billion euros, all-time record. And this challenge of having an investment gap is also our biggest opportunity, because Greece has a lot of potential, exactly because it has not been investing, for high quality, high return investments for the years to come. Now, what is our economic policy to tackle these challenges? First of all, the Greek government for the last 3 years is a reform government. And we have continued to do reforms during the unprecedented crisis that we have faced, the pandemic, the energy crisis, and now the war crisis. What kind of reforms have we implemented? First of all, we have made a huge tax reform, making our business taxes competitive compared to other OECD countries, and also the taxes for high earning individuals. We have decreased considerably our non-wage labor costs, pension contributions, and we have been improving bureaucracy and moving forward with a digital state. This effort has started a couple of years ago, and Leonidas is going to talk about it more in detail in the next panel. We have a lot of space still to cover, but we have also big investments coming through the Recovery and Resilience Fund, where we have committed more than 2 billion euros for the digital state, and these investments are now just starting. We have also promoted reforms in almost every other aspect of our economic and social policy, including reforms in education, where we need to make our education system to understand more the needs of the economy. Reforms in handling private debt, which was a big problem, still is, because of the Greek economic crisis that had left a lot of households in debt. Reforms increasing electronic transactions and reducing tax evasion, which were very successful during the last couple of years. Changing also the second pillar of the pension system from a pay-as-you-go to a funded system, introducing a new labor law that improves relationships between businesses and labor, etc. Also, we have promoted privatization. In the energy sector was the biggest move, since we now have our public energy company, public electricity company, being turned into a company that has the majority of its capital private, and in other sectors like shipyards and other industries. And there are more reforms to come because we have an extensive reform agenda within the RRF. The Greek RRF program has 68 reforms, one of the most reform-oriented RRF programs in Europe at the moment. And these reforms, because of the nature of the RRF, are locked in and are certain to happen in the next 3 to 4 years. Also, for investors, it is important that Greece has political stability, and it has a government that remains strong despite all these crises. Plus, all the major political parties in Greece today share a common goal of fiscal stability, which is a must for Greek economic policy in the years to come. Our biggest challenge is still the high public debt that we have, which is now diminishing, but we are still a long way. We still have a long way to go in terms of debt reduction. This high debt next year is going to approach the pre-pandemic level, and we will continue falling in the years to come because our budget is constructed in such a way that we can and shall have primary surpluses for the foreseeable future. These primary surpluses, however, are going to be limited so as not to block investment and growth. And I believe this is going to be the outcome of the new negotiations happening within the Eurozone for the new fiscal rules that we are going to have after 2023. This economic policy that I have described is implemented efficiently, and one can see that looking into how we developed our RRF program, which is the biggest per capita in Europe and which has moved very fast up till now. We are the second to apply. We're one of the first 4 countries to have the first ordinary payment because we have completed our first milestones and targets, and we expect the arrival of another 3.5 billion euros from the RRF within the next month or so. All in all, it is difficult to discuss about economic policy in this period of uncertainty, but we are optimistic that Greece is going to grow considerably in the next 3 to 5 years. We are certain that we will attract a lot of new investments, and we have already seen some of the big multinational companies that have never seen Greece up till now as an investment opportunity to start investing in Greece: Microsoft, Pfizer, Cisco, Amazon, Morgan Stanley. And what I can tell you is that we're going to proceed with our reform agenda for the foreseeable future. We believe in reforms, we're implementing reforms, and we will remain as long as we serve a reform government. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And now Vassiliki Lazarakou from the Hellenic Capital Market Commission.
Thank you. So good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is my pleasure to participate in this conference. Let me start by what the Minister said about the recovery and the growth, the clear signs of growth during the last year. So not only for the economy, but also for the capital markets, 2021 was a year of growth because we saw, and I will start with the numbers, we saw that the numbers in 2021 doubled as far as the capital raising through the stock exchange, for example, is concerned. Actually, not only doubled, but it was 5 times more than 2020 and 2019. And I don't even want to compare it with the previous years. Could be like 10 times more. So 2021 was really a year. I'm not going to speak about specific numbers. If you want, I can. But it has been a year that more than, let's say, 6 billion were raised through the Athens Stock Exchange through equity capital and bond issuance. And not only that, but we saw that there was a very successful recapitalization of 2 Greek banks. Also, we had for the first time bond issuances of shipping companies that were also listed abroad. So there was a year, let's say, of capital raising. Also, the fund industry is interesting to see how it evolved. In the assets of the Greek mutual funds were approximately, if you compare it with the last 5 years, within the last 5 years, it is they have doubled from 2017. So in 2021, the Greek mutual funds were like double as if you compare it with 5 years before. But the most important thing is that they were more traditionally the Greeks invested in foreign mutual funds. In the first year, 2021 was the first year that the investments in the Greek mutual funds were more than the investments in the foreign mutual funds, which is very interesting because you saw the rebuild, let's say, of the trust of the Greek investors in the Greek fund industry, which is really very important. So after the numbers that I gave you, let me go to the reforms that took place in the market these last years. From 2019 that we were appointed, I have to say that we took 3 strategic decisions, which were there. They were, first, we wanted to make sure that we put forward proposals in relation to the reform of the market. Now, having said that, the Greek capital market framework is the same as in all other EU countries. So there is not really a lot of room for national legislation. There are specific issues that are related to national legislation. Which are these? First, the corporate governance. And the second are new products. So what we did is that we tried to enhance the corporate governance law in Greece, and there was a proposal put forward by the Commission in order to to strengthen the corporate governance framework. So that happened, and in 2020 there was the new corporate governance law, which actually changed the environment as far as the Greek listed companies were concerned. And it gave a one year of transition, and now we are happy to say that after this 1 year of transition, the listed companies in Greece have changed dramatically, because now they have adopted all the new corporate governance principles which are in line with the EU best practices. Now, for example, if I may say 2 things about this new corporate governance law, it strengthened the internal and external company audit mechanism, increased the efficiency of the company board of directors, establishing more independence criteria, and trying to improve and streamline the organization of the companies themselves. Now, that was one of the major issues. Then we also tried to introduce new type of products, such as new type of alternative investment funds. For the first time, that happened in 2020, which is again something which can be used in the future by asset managers in order to proceed to investments. And the second major reform that there was, an attempt to do, an effort to do, the second strategic decision was about digital transformation. So the Commission decided that it's going to proceed with the digital transformation because this is an objective of all the capital market regulators. So Greece as well, and the Commission, we have to say, that was accepted to be funded by the RRF, and now it's going to work on its digital transformation. And the next goal is going to make sure that the interaction among the brokerage firm and the Commission is also more digitalized, so that we all proceed to another digitalized environment where all the market can, adjust to the new developments of the whole European market. And the third one is that the Commission tried a lot to assist and support all the reform of the market in other ways. For example, we try to simplify the process for the prospectuses, the process of, let's say, we try to simplify, we also have regulatory decisions in order to accept the prospectuses in English and assist in the combined offers. So there was a change of the environment. Now, apart from that, there are also an EU initiative that the HCMC, the Capital Market Commission, supports as sustainable finance, because we are working towards a sustainable future, and we, together with all the other capital market regulations, we try to see how we are going to assist the market with the turmoil that is happening right now with the geopolitical problems. So we are in coordination, and actually Greece and the Capital Market Commission was one of the first authorities that took all the relevant measures together with the other capital market regulators in order to make sure that we inform the market about all the relevant issues that have to be informed. Now, we are confident that the capital market can be a key growth driver for the Greek economy by providing funding to essential business needs and meaningful investment plans for the real economy, which may be deployed in the future. So I'm totally convinced that Greece can become a bigger financial center in Europe, and our mission as a regulator is to ensure transparency and compliance in alignment with the EU legislation, and at the same time to have a financial Greece fit for tomorrow's challenges and strong on the EU and international scene. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have about 15 minutes for questions, discussion. Anybody want to raise a question or make a point? I'm looking around the audience. Hopefully, yes, over there. There is a microphone coming towards you. Perhaps you could say who you are and ask before you ask your question.
Yes, hello, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm Yannis Michopoulos. I'm the chairman of the board of directors of DESFA, the gas transmission company in Greece. But also, I've got a dual hat, a Greek and a British nationalities. My question is, first of all, I would like to applaud the minister and Mrs. Lazarakou for the initiatives to make Greece a more attractive place for investors. And particularly, I'd like to comment on the corporate governance improvements that you mentioned in the new law. But from my knowledge, the majority of the makeup of the Greek economy is not only listed companies. We're talking about small and medium enterprises, family offices, and of course the state-owned companies. So my question is, and of course these are particularly attractive for investors. So the question is, what are the measures, proposed measures in place to make them also attractive for investors by strengthening their corporate governance frameworks and encourage them to sort of be aligned with best practices in Europe? Thank you.
Is that for you, do you think? Well, maybe you could both comment, but you start.
Okay, I have to say that as a capital market regulator, we are more focused on the listed companies. We cannot, of course, change the rules for the non-listed companies. However, I think that there is a process of changing the whole environment in Greece because, for example, in order to take loans, you need to make sure, the companies need to make sure that they comply to some requirements of corporate governance. So I think this is how the change will take place, through the lender process and through other alternative mechanisms of investment. And I believe that there is a need for, let's say, a more, you are right, one of the things that we need to focus more is how we're going to make sure that we increase the investment let's say, ability of all the capability of all these smaller companies. And this is something that only through alternative financing can take place. And there are a lot of alternative financing tools in the Capital Market Union framework, and the whole Europe is working on this. For example, crowdfunding. There was a new regulation now for crowdfunding, and this can assist smaller companies in being funded. So I believe that we are going to see a lot of new tools that will assist more and support more these smaller businesses.
Well, the smaller businesses in Greece are very numerous. They have a smaller size compared to the European counterparts, so they are much smaller than the relative small companies in other European countries. Thus, we are promoting cooperation and mergers and acquisitions as an essential part of our government policy to make these companies bigger. We have such a reform in RRF, and probably in the next month we're going to have a new law that promotes cooperation, mergers and acquisitions. We are also using a part from the big loan facility that we have in RRF. Most of our subsidies in RRF for private investment to be used only by small and medium companies. It's 1.5 billion euros of subsidies that will make it, will be given to such companies so that they will be more efficient and effective through investment. Plus, we have improved the tax and social contributions regime, because the biggest problem of our smaller companies is that there is a lot of, I would say, unfair competition from people that are tax evading. And it's more difficult for them to get out of the trap of, and it's not only Greece, it's all over the world, this phenomenon, but these phenomena, but in Greece it's we have observed it. So what we are trying is at the same time give incentives for these companies to get out of this trap of having to compete with companies that are tax evading, and at the same time we're increasing the pressure for tax evasion through promoting electronic transactions. I have said in my speech that we have managed to increase very significantly electronic transactions, and we are seeing the benefits of that both in additional VAT revenues, which means that tax evasion is falling, and with the new culture of using electronic transactions in the population at large. And we're going to continue promoting that policy as well.
Do you have a strong private equity and venture capital industry in Greece? I mean, if you're talking about trying to get smaller companies to get bigger.
There is a gap there.
There is a gap.
Yeah, an opportunity for investors.
It's getting bigger.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Eleni Polykoniadou, business owner in the UK, working in Greece, Cyprus and around the world in green buildings. Now, we've heard a little bit about ESG, we've heard about green energy, mentioned a little bit about sustainable finance, but really, what are the trends that you're seeing? We've seen a couple of green bonds being issued in Greece in the last year, but what are the steps being taken to encourage more of the alignment between the ESG factors, between green finance, both from the government side, but also from the capital markets, and what trends are you really seeing in that particular area?
Green finance.
Green finance. Well, let's start with the fact that our RRF program has a lot of green finance within it, especially for buildings. We now have a huge program that is going to give subsidies of about €1 billion for investment in buildings, making them more green and more energy efficient. This is for households, and another €700 million of subsidies for relevant green investments, also in energy efficiency for businesses and the government. And what is interesting is that for the government buildings, we are asking energy services companies, ESCOs, to co-invest in our effort. So we are not making just public investments, but we are aiming at private-public partnerships to improve our government buildings. This is the, let's say, the subsidy part. We are also having a big part of our RRF loan facility. This is a facility of 12 billion euros of loans that is going to create, we hope, about 30 billion euros of investment. There, 38% is going to be green investment, so it's totally open for investment, both renewables and energy efficiency. In fact, if you have an investment that can attract a bank loan, this is a very, very interesting facility because it works fast. It's 100% market-oriented. You go to the bank, and the whole process involves only the bank and an auditor, a private auditor appointed by us. And you get a loan at this moment with a fixed rate of 0.35, so 35 basis points for 10 or up to 15 years.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, ESG is a top priority for all capital market regulators, as you may know. We, in the Commission, apart from participating, of course, in the fora that we are drafting right now, the RTSs, for several disclosure issues. Apart from that, we're also trying to, let's say, educate the market, the market participants, with respect to all these EGA criteria and how they should be implemented into the strategies of the listed companies, and how the asset managers should then disclose the relevant information that they need to disclose according to regulation, according to SFDR. So we are in this process of trying to, let's say, raise market awareness, and we are determined that we are going to make them understand that they need to incorporate this strategy, the ESG strategies in the listed companies, and of course then to make sure that they comply with the relevant criteria. So right now we are in the market awareness period.
Any more comments and questions? We have only got 5 minutes left, but I would just like to ask the Minister, because I've been doing these conferences for some years. There was a time when some people in Greece, including a former finance minister, seemed to think that Euro membership was bad for Greece. But I guess that you're really saying, no, that's just not right. It's the reverse.
Well, I think this story has long passed, and now it's buried very deeply in the ground. There are no...
He still writes about it.
Yes, but he has moved from being a finance minister to having a small, far left, rather bizarre party.
The debate is over, is really what I'm saying.
For Greece has moved on, and the majority of the population the huge majority of the population is locked into Europe, and this big crisis that we have, the pandemic, the energy crisis, the war, I think that it consolidated the belief that Greece belongs, always belonged, and will always belong to the West.
You would agree?
Of course.
On membership of the Euro.
Plus, we are also regulators, and we are all together coordinated. So it has seen, in practice, we have seen how important it is to be in coordination with all the others and make sure that we work on supervisory convergence. We work together with all the EU members. So I'm not going to speak politically, but from a technocratic point of view that we belong, yes, I think it is very beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'd like to say thanks to both of you, unless there's one more question, and we'll move on to the next panel.